Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is Suspects and Spirits, and I'm your host, Taylor Seraphin. And today, when you're listening to this, it will officially be fall. I could cry tears of joy. I'm so happy. Don't get me wrong, okay? It's still hot as fuck out here in Arizona, but there has been definitely more rain than usual lately, which I'm ecstatic about. I love the rain. The desert rain, it's truly beautiful. Like, I know I talk a lot of shit about Arizona, and I mean every word. I really don't like it here. Well, there are some parts that I like, so I guess not every single word, but I really don't like the heat. I don't think I'm built for it, but I'm not built for like extreme cold either. I don't know, you guys. I need a good in between. Where should I go? Where should we where should we move when we retire? I need somewhere that's a bit more, the in between, the upside down. But the desert rain, it really is really beautiful. We've been getting a bunch of those little geckos. Our little gecko friends are back, and I love them. They hang out on the window screens and they eat, any little bugs that attempt to enter our home. Plus, they're freaking adorable. We get a ton of them. And the babies are so tiny. They're so cute. They're almost like see-through. And in the sunlight, they have like a pink tinge to them with little brown spots. They're our pest control, and they're the cutest form of pest control ever. So, yeah, I don't mind it. They're welcome here anytime. Anyways, I've decided that from this week, today when you're listening, until the week of Halloween, all of the episodes are going to center around spooky Halloween time, like a countdown, if you will. 6 weeks of Halloween. ABC Family used to have the 13 Nights of Halloween. I looked forward to it every year. Every time they had 13 Nights of Halloween, I knew I could count on there being I Know What You Did Last Summer or like one of the Scream movies. I think Disney did it for a little bit as well. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I loved this movie. It not Halloween Town. I love that one too. Even though they changed Marnie in Halloween Town 3, like they just thought we wouldn't notice. Like we're just going to change the whole ass main character and the millennials won't notice. Yes, we will. What are you doing? Nothing against what's her name? I think it's Sarah Paxton, right? She's great. Love her. But oh no, that's you don't take her out. You can't replace her. What are you doing? If that's the direction you're going to go, just don't make another one. You know what I mean? But there was another one called Don't Look Under the Bed. Do you guys remember that movie? Oh my God, it was so good. I loved it. It was like about the boogeyman, but it had to deal with the girl's old imaginary friend. Oh my gosh. I need to watch it again. I think maybe it might be time to introduce my kids to that movie. I think they would probably like it a lot. But that one was like genuinely pretty scary. It was, oh shit, what was his name? He was also in Even Stevens, the guy who plays like the imaginary friend slash boogeyman. It's not Shia LaBeouf. It's not him. By the way, that's not who I'm thinking of. No, he was like a supporting character. He was Ren's nemesis. Oh my gosh, what was his name? Oh man, that's gonna really drive me crazy. But anyways, I always loved the 13 Nights of Halloween. I loved a countdown. So I decided I'm gonna do my own countdown with the 6 weeks of Halloween. So you're welcome. So basically what that means is each week, whether it be paranormal or true crime, the story will somehow be Halloween themed or Halloween adjacent. And I'm going to be real honest with you guys. I've been researching for the next 6 weeks. It was much harder to find hard hitting paranormal Halloween adjacent stories than it was true crime Halloween stories. People do some fucked up shit on Halloween. So the next few true crime episodes just buckle up, hold on to those butts cuz they're really messed up. Not as messed up as the men that our president pardoned for the J6 insurrection that have, insane rap sheets of wildly violent crimes against women and children, but I mean, it's up there for sure. Just as messed up as that. And speaking of messed up, I just want to remind everyone who may need a quick civics lesson. I just want to remind everybody that the FCC is federally run. That is a federal entity. And while it's true that your employer can fire you for things that you say, that's not really what's going on right now. And that's not why people are mad. They're not mad because someone got fired. We are mad because the First Amendment clearly says that Congress can't make laws against free speech. And actually, the Supreme Court has extended that to include executive branch policies. So, the executive branch threatening a private corporation over protected speech it's very clearly a First Amendment violation. Like, that's an issue. So, that's why we're mad. If anyone was wondering, I just needed to remind people because I think we forgot about that. But if that question was on a civics exam, President strong arms the FCC to cancel a late night comedian. Can he do that? I would hope that the majority of people know that the answer is no. He cannot. That is not within his power. We have three branches of the government, guys. And there's a reason why the Supreme Court has extended that to include the executive branch, because even though he has veto power, that is not part of his job. He cannot control people's words. So, anywho, I won't go on my soapbox this week. I will spare you all of my wildly unholy indoctrination. But what I will say and what I will indoctrinate right in your face is that if you have not tried the new Reese's with Oreos or the Oreos with the Reese's peanut butter in the center, oh, babe, you're missing out. Go get you some. They are to die for. Like, I mean, obviously, don't listen to me. Do not eat them if you're allergic to peanut butter, because then that phrase will take on a whole new meaning. But if you like peanut butter and can safely consume it, please go get some right now. Well, actually, no, listen to this podcast first and then go get some. Also, wanted to apologize for having to push the Booze Clues episode for this month to a later date. I've received some DMs asking if it was going to be the second week of September. It was supposed to be, but I'm one person and life got very busy, and editing 2 episodes in 1 week, it wasn't possible for this particular month. So I am shooting for this Friday when you're listening to this Friday. Okay, what the fuck day is that? That's the 26th. Okay. So anyone who's writing asking like, "Hey, is my story going to be included?" I've included, I think it's 4. I already have it recorded. It's just getting it edited. It's halfway edited. I have to finish the rest. And then it will be out for your listening pleasure in your ear holes, okay? And then for the one after that, the one for October, I'm begging you all for spooky Halloween stories, urban legends. Send me the lore from your hometown. Send me the scariest haunted house you've ever been to. Send me some wild Halloween stories, please. And also funny ones. Like if you have funny ones, I need to hear them, clearly, obviously. So, yeah, stories for October. Send me your spooky, scary Halloween stories. And one other thing before we get started, because would I even be a tailor if I didn't include some kind of pop culture or TV show or book or something? I have to talk about this. Is anyone else insanely excited for the new Stranger Things in November? Oh my gosh. The last season had me, you guys, it had me fucked up. Okay. And I will fangirl over Eddie forever and ever. Eddie forever. But I can't wait for this new season because I've been waiting, waiting on Stranger Things. But I'm so excited. So excited. And I will say I've seen a lot of the interviews with the cast about, how it's kind of sad. It's a bittersweet ending. We don't want it to end, but it has to at some point. Like, just like I said about The Conjuring and fucking Harry Potter, like, I get so attached. I get so emotionally invested, and then it ends, and then I have to find something new to watch. But I have never been disappointed with the season of Stranger Things, so I can't wait to see what's in store. I actually thought about being a Stranger Things character for Halloween, but I don't know. I actually can't decide this year what I should be. You guys, maybe you can help me. Tell me your best ideas. Throw them at me. DM me. Comment in the video. Like, what should I be for Halloween? And if my husband can get Halloween off this year, because, restaurant life, what are you going to do? But if he can, and we can do a couple's costume, give me those two. I go all out for Halloween. So all ideas are welcome. I've tossed around some good ones. Like, I think it would be insanely funny for him and I to dress up as Sunny and Cher, but he dresses as Cher and I dress as Sunny. Imagine my 6'4" husband being Cher and I'm 5 foot and like little Sunny. I just think it'd be funny. That would be the best. But I go either like full funny and cute or full scary. There's no in between. So let me know. What should I be for Halloween? And speaking of spooky, scary Halloween time, let's get into our story for today. You guys, this story is so good. It's delicious. This may be one of the best cases of paranormal activity ever documented. And now I want to go here. I have to go here. Today, we are going to be talking about the Resurrection Cemetery in Chicago and the famous lady in white who still haunts the grounds. And her name is Resurrection Mary. And I mean, I know you all can read, so clearly you read the title, but I was excited to say that a big buildup. Today, you guys, we are diving deep into Resurrection Mary. So let's set the scene, shall we? Imagine you're driving late on Archer Avenue in Chicago. The radio's low, the dashboard glow paints the vinyl in a slow orange. You keep an eye on the highway signs and, the skeleton silhouettes of the trees. But out of the blue, a woman in a pale dress is at the roadside and she's just slipping into your view. She's small, polite, maybe a little sad even. So you stop. Don't ever do that, by the way. Don't stop for hitchhikers. But you stop this time because this is hypothetical. And she gets in your car. She's cold. And she asks to be let out by the cemetery gates. So you slow down and you pull up to the iron bars and you turn to speak to her. And then nothing. She's gone. The door never opened. Nobody ever touched the upholstery in your car. The leather never even creased. This is the story of Chicago's most famous vanishing hitchhiker, a ghost with a dance card and a name. Tonight, we are going to trace Mary back to ballrooms and back roads, talk eyewitness accounts that people still stand by today, and dig into physical oddities like scorch marks on cemetery gates. And we're going to look for the woman behind the legend, which some believe to be Mary Bregovy or Anna Maria Norcus. Was she a patchwork of grief, rumor, and memory, or just an urban legend? I'll let you decide. Here we go. Now, Resurrection Mary fits into a very old story pattern of the vanishing hitchhiker, a tale cataloged across many continents, probably all 7 of them. I don't know why I said many, but all 7 of the continents. The bones are pretty familiar in this story. Basically, a driver picks up a stranger, they are told the address, and then later they learn that the passenger is dead or they watch them vanish in some way or another. What makes the Mary story so different, though, is the place, the detail, and the longevity. This ghost has a whole ass neighborhood to herself, Archer Avenue, and 2 landmarks the O. Henry Ballroom, which was later named the Willowbrook, and then Resurrection Cemetery. And she has a set of repeating motifs a young woman in white or light party dress, cold hands, dancing, and the cemetery gates. These repeating details give the story a lot of texture and make it very memorable. And then there's anecdotal continuity drivers, cabbies, ballroom regulars telling the same compact tale for generations. Those tellings are not always identical. No, there are small differences that do appear, but the core is stable enough that when people swap stories at sleepovers or on ghost tours or across late night radio, it is a recognizable story. And when a ghost story like this one survives actual tabloids, the internet, renovations to the road, and decades of skepticism, you know it's tapping into something deeper than a single fright. Now, if you ask local historians for a first Mary sighting, they are often going to point to 1939 when a man named Jerry Paulus came forward with his story. He was a regular at dance halls on Chicago's South Side. And in Paulus's account, which he has told many times and even on camera for Unsolved Mysteries, yes, this was an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. I remember it to a T from when I watched it as a child. This man, Paulus, he says that he met a pretty quiet young woman at the Liberty Grove or the O. Henry / Willowbrook Ballroom. When he met her, he was drawn to her. He thought she was absolutely beautiful. They danced, they flirted a little, and then at closing, he offered to take her home to give her a ride. So she told him, sure. She was like, yes, you can take me home. And she told him an address on South Damon. But as they were driving, instead of taking her to South Damon, she asked to be dropped off on Archer Road instead. And he obliged. She was like, that's weird. I don't know why you want to be dropped off over here, but okay. So he dropped her off there. And that's when she stepped out by Resurrection Cemetery, by the gates. And before his eyes, as she was walking away, she just completely vanished. But seeing her vanish wasn't really enough for him. He was like, oh, well, maybe it was a trick of the eye. Maybe I wasn't seeing that right. Perhaps I missed where she went, right? So the next day, Paulus decided he was going to go to that address on South Damon that Mary had given him the night before at the ballroom. So he drives up, pulls up to the door, and right as he's about to open the door actually opens to him, and a woman is standing there. And he says, hi, I'm looking for a woman that I met last night. Her name is Mary. And the woman says, I'm sorry, no one here lives by that name. And he's like, oh, no, actually, I see a picture behind you on that table right there. That's the woman I'm looking for. That's her. And the woman who opened the door says, that's impossible. That is my daughter, Mary, and she's been dead for years. And that's when Paulus realizes that the woman he danced with all night at the ballroom and then took home and watched vanish was a ghost. He had worked in a morgue in years prior, so he realized that as he was dancing with her, she had felt very cold. And he was like, oh my, like, why is she so cold? So he realized he must have been dancing with nobody. And I personally would love to know what that looked like to other people. Did other people at the ballroom see him dancing with no one? Or did they see Mary too? He was a regular there. He used to go there all the time, like every night. And he would dance with women. He was kind of, a ladies' man. So I need to know for my own sanity if other people saw him dancing with Mary or if he looked like a crazy person dancing by himself. And there are a few important things about Paulus's version of this story to highlight. Paulus came from a working class background. He kept a pretty steady job, and his testimony is one of the earliest recorded. And that lends the legend an anchor in real life, not just, campfire rumor. The Unsolved Mysteries episode used him as a primary witness in the televised retellings, and it is fascinating. I highly suggest you go watch it. It's so interesting. I will link it in the show notes for you. The versions of Mary's story likely existed in, verbal circulation before Paulus's telling. So many people have filled in the arc from different ballrooms and dance halls. But even though the places shift in the early retellings of her lore, the general geography, like the Southwest Chicago Resurrection Cemetery area, that remains very consistent. And that regional fixation is a big reason that the tale feels very real to locals. And for locals, I mean, who doesn't love detective work, right? People love to try and dig into these stories. So if Resurrection Mary is real, who is she? And over the years, researchers and writers have suggested multiple names, but two are the most cited. Now, the story of Resurrection Mary dates back to the 1930s. According to the most popular version, Mary was a young woman who spent the evening dancing with her boyfriend at the O. Henry Ballroom in Willow Springs, Illinois. After a disagreement, she stormed out and began walking home along Archer Avenue. Tragically, though, she was struck and killed by a hit-and-run driver, and her parents, who were devastated by the loss, buried her in Resurrection Cemetery, dressing her in a beautiful white dancing dress and matching shoes. Since then, her spirit has been said to haunt the area, seeking a ride home, which explains why she may have told Paulus where her address was, but then felt the need to get out at the cemetery. So the two factual women who have been tied to this story are Mary Bregovy, who was killed in a car accident in 1934. She was buried at Resurrection Cemetery, and many sources point to her as a highly likely candidate because of the name match and also the burial location. But the timeline and some of the details don't always line up clearly and cleanly with particular early sightings. And then the other woman, Ana Marija Norcas, otherwise referred to as Mary, she passed away in 1927 in an auto accident after leaving the O. Henry Ballroom. Some authors and local researchers like Ursula Bielski have argued that Norcas's connection fits a bit better with certain accounts tied to the O. Henry. And that theory has gained traction lately among a lot of local paranormal writers. And then there's the crowdsourced theory, because we always have that. And that is that Mary is not just one woman, but a composite, a stitched together archetype formed by several real deaths, plus, dance hall rumor and the vanishing hitchhiker template. But one particular detail that propels the Mary story beyond any anecdote is the Resurrection Cemetery gates. Several accounts over many decades have referred to what look like handprints or impression marks and scuffs or even bends on the iron bars near the pedestrian gate, almost as if something gripped it and then burned it. In the mid 1970s, at least one well circulated account claimed that investigators found the bars bent and showing scorch marks, where a figure had apparently tried to force them. And the cemetery's administration, when asked, has given pretty mundane explanations like work trucks, backing into the gates, welding or blowtorch repairs that later just look like scorch marks, and regular wear and tear from weather and vehicles. But still, for a public craving proof of Resurrection Mary, the gate marks become a physical talisman, an object that says something happened here. Even if the marks have an earthly cause, the story's persistence means that people return with flashlights every Halloween to see them. Other physical oddities that have occurred are drivers reporting that their cars seem to stall. Taxis have also complained of unpaid fares from a young woman who never appears again. And then there are the reports, and this one freaks me out the most, the reports of cars supposedly hitting a pedestrian who isn't there when the driver gets out to check. Imagine driving down the road, there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden there's a person in front of you that you hit with your car. I would be scarred for life. Like, that would mess me up so bad. And then you get out and there's nothing there. That would fuck me up even more. Are you kidding? And then the people who say that this happens, like, they see her and they feel as though they're going to hit her and they slam on their brakes and then she's just gone. And there's no actual thud or thump of the car. So really freaks people out, understandably so. Now, aside from these, there are some really famous sightings and notable reports. Now, I already told you guys about Jerry Paulus's encounter. That was one of the earliest encounters with Mary. That happened in 1939. The dancing, he gives her a ride, and then she just vanishes by the cemetery gates. This story is often credited as the earliest recording of Mary. Between the 1940s and 1950s, there was verbal circulation and regional retellings. Mary became a local staple of Archer Avenue lore. Some reports shift the ballroom name and precise locations, but the gist of the story persists. And then in the 70s, there was renewed attention from actual papers and local reports. Ghost hunters and folklorists began collecting accounts of Resurrection Mary. There were photographs and claims about gate marks circulating. And then a series of taxi driver stories also surfaced, saying that they picked up a strange woman in a party clothes who vanished at the cemetery. Between 1975 and 1985, the Chicago Tribune and local media ran multiple features on Mary. Richard Crow, who is a founder of Chicago Ghost Tours, collects reports and helps keep the story alive in print and television show segments. And then, of course, like I said, Unsolved Mysteries later picked up Paulus' testimony in 1986. And that is when the tale of Resurrection Mary re enters national consciousness. But that's not all. Between 1990 and 2000, there were continued retellings, local histories, and tourism interest. The Willowbrook Ballroom, which was the O. Henry originally, and Resurrection Cemetery became very frequent stops on ghost tours. And then between 2010 and 2020, folklorists and journalists were publishing more of a nuanced take, emphasizing Mary's role as a cultural artifact and would discuss, competing candidate identities, just trying to figure out if it was Mary Bregovy or Anna Maria Norcus. To this day, tours still bring visitors, and it is said that Mary resurfaces every Halloween. This timeline of events kind of demonstrates that Mary isn't just, a single flash in the pan rumor. She's been a part of Chicago's cultural fabric for generations. And many people who have witnessed Mary say that there is absolutely no way it could be a prank. Because obviously I'm a believer, right? But one of my first thoughts is like, oh, is someone dressing up as Mary and trying to scare people, or just they think it's funny? I don't know. People do weird stuff. Okay. So that was one of my initial thoughts. I was like, could it be somebody trying to pull a prank? According to these eyewitness testimonies, I don't think so. Across accounts, the recurring physical details are very consistent, like enough to form a mental image. So here's what they say Mary looks like. Her appearance is late teens or maybe early 20s, light blonde hair, a long lacy or white party dress or like a thin shawl over a dress, very like 1930s style. Dancing shoes or simple heels, very pale skin, often very quiet and sometimes even tearful when picked up as a hitchhiker. Some accounts say that she has blue eyes. Her behavior is also very consistent across all accounts. She loves dancing. So people see her at the O. Henry, now called the Willowbrook Ballroom. So loves to dance. She's sometimes asked to be dropped off at the cemetery gates. She's very polite. She might be even chilly to the touch. And people who have danced with her, like Paulus, say that she moves effortlessly, almost like she's floating. And then there's the vanishing. So the vanishing movement kind of varies a little bit. Sometimes she dissolves when the driver reaches the cemetery gate, like just vanishes from the car. And then sometimes she runs to the gate or walks to the gates and then passes through the iron bars. And then in other versions, she just merely evaporates from the automobile seat before the car even fully stops. But throughout all the accounts, it's very clear that she is not a scary entity. She's not violent. Resurrection Mary is generally not vengeful in any way. She's just a tragic figure, very residual, sometimes mournful, and sometimes even playful, but not out to harm anyone at all, nothing to be scared of. Actually, more sad if you think about it, because if her spirit really is just stuck here, that sucks. But the consistency in the details, the dress, the dance, her demeanor, these all help the tale read as more than just a scattering of unrelated sightings. They really create a character that people can picture and thus remember and retell and look for. And there's even been pictures that people have claimed to capture of her, which is included in the video that I posted for today. And as you will actually hear in our upcoming Booze Clues episode, vanishing hitchhiker stories are pretty common. Like people have them. I even have one, and you can hear about it in the Booze Clues episode. And some may say that the function of these tales, hitchhiker tales, is just the social lesson. They encode warnings. Don't pick up strangers at night. They memorialize loss, a young life cut short. Or they just act as an urban marker for identity. This is our patch of road. This is our ghost. Now, of course, I can't give you a ghost story without including the skepticism, because I know some of you listening might be here more for the true crime than the paranormal. Maybe you're a bit more skeptical. Maybe you've never had a paranormal experience before, so you don't know, or you don't believe in them. And that is fine. That is your opinion. Even though I am a hardcore believer, I still want to give you a skeptic's view. So here are some rational explanations and why the story persists. So there's the concept of misidentification and pareidolia. I'm probably not saying that right. Pareidolia. I have no fucking idea. So that means nighttime driving glare, right? There's a glare on your windshield or, driving late at night just make people more likely to misread a coat or a mannequin as a person. I'm sorry, I don't know why there would be a mannequin just, like, on the side of the road. If you've never listened to My Favorite Murder or Morbid, like, if you're not a murderino and you don't know, it's never a mannequin, okay? It's never a mannequin, and as I talked about today with my friend at work because we found out that some second graders cannot control their bowels, it's never a mannequin, and it's never mud, okay? I have a hard job, you guys. Anyways, they think that, perhaps it could be a mannequin or a coat on the side of the road instead of a ghost. So we know that the human brain is excellent at pattern seeking. And in the dark, we kind of just fill gaps with faces and we see what we want to see. And then there's memory error and confabulation, which is such a fun word. I love that word, confabulation, which basically just means that over decades, memory reshapes events. The whole I danced with her story from Jerry Paulus's testimony may be sincere, but skeptics believe that memory is malleable, which just basically means that it's like easily influenced or persuaded, especially when shaped by local lore. And then there's the melding of multiple deaths, multiple car accidents, real deaths near Archer Avenue that likely fueled the idea of a tragic woman haunting the area. And these facts can be conflated into one that's a more continuous narrative. That's what the skeptics say. As far as the physical explanations for the marks, like, scorch like marks on the cemetery gates, they could be welding and truck damage or rust. That I do agree with that actually. Cemeteries are maintained by crews and over time the repairs and corrosion can look pretty like spooky and mysterious. So that one I'm not too sure about. Like even as a believer, I'm not sure that just a regular ghost, like she's not malicious, she's not a demon, she's not anything like that. How would she, like, burn imprints into the gates? That one, I am a bit hesitant about. Okay, I'm not sure that that has anything to do with Mary, but that's what they say. But I also haven't seen it in person, so I have no idea. If I could go and look and see what it looks like to me and then draw my own conclusion, that would be best. As far as the story of Mary, though, I totally believe it. And then there's the idea from skeptics of just like deliberate hoaxes and sensationalism. There are people who will take advantage of situations like this just to get their name in the paper or make a little bit of money. But I don't know. This one to me seems like pretty strong lore. For it to last this long and have this many sightings from the 1930s to now is pretty wild. So let's get into some of the quotes and eyewitness testimony, shall we? Now, of course, I'm going to go back to Jerry Paulus and his sighting of Mary. On that episode of Unsolved Mysteries, Jerry recalled, quote, "She was real. I danced with her. I held her in my arms. But when we got to the cemetery, she was gone." To me, that's a pretty wild thing to make up. Like you're saying that you just danced with a whole ass person and then they vanish. That's pretty crazy. And I don't think anyone would just willfully admit that because people are going to give you the look. And then there were some sightings in the 1970s. Drivers reported hitting a woman near the cemetery, which again would just send me into oblivion. I could not handle that. I would never want to drive again. And then when they get out, they don't see anyone. They find nobody. And this is multiple drivers. Around that same time, another passerby claimed to see a young girl locked inside the cemetery, clutching the bars. And when authorities checked, they found the scorch marks on the bronze gates that remain to this day. So that is where they're saying that those handprints came from, the scorch marks on the gate. And then in 1979, a cab driver named Ralph, good old Ralph, he described picking up a young blonde woman near a shopping center on Archer Avenue. And according to Ralph, he said that she asked to be dropped near the cemetery. And when he went to collect her fare, she was gone. She had just vanished. In the 1980s and 90s, multiple cabbies came forward with similar accounts. A young woman in party clothes would ride quietly in the back seat and then just disappear without opening the door. One driver even told Unsolved Mysteries, quote, "One minute she was sitting there, the next minute she wasn't. The back door never opened." End quote. And then in 1980, Claire Rudnicki and her husband Mark reported seeing a glowing figure walking along Archer Avenue. Claire said, quote, "She was very bright, illuminating. I thought, oh my God, it's Resurrection Mary. I was terrified." End quote. Mark added, quote, "No one could have pulled a prank like that. She was so bright and there was no light source. I didn't believe in ghosts until I saw her." End quote. Again, pretty normal people. I really suggest you guys go watch the episode of Unsolved Mysteries. I'll put it in the show notes, but you can just Google Unsolved Mysteries, Resurrection Mary, a YouTube video will pop up. To me, they seem like pretty credible people who were like, that was weird. Here, I'll tell you my story because that was fucking weird. And then another claim came in 1989 when Janet Kalal claimed to have nearly struck a young woman with her car near the cemetery. But no body, no sound, no evidence was left behind. There was nothing. Kalal said, quote, "I know she ran out in front of my car and I hit her, but there was no impact, no bump, nothing." End quote. And then in the 2000s, sightings just continued. In 2001, a visitor from Lithuania who was unaware of the legend at all reported seeing a blonde woman in a white dress walking Archer Avenue and then disappearing near the cemetery gates. Very spooky, if you ask me. And now my nosy ass wants to go drive up and down Archer Avenue in Illinois. I feel like I have to. I want to go experience this for myself. I have definitely experienced phantom hitchhikers, and you can hear about it in the Booze Clues episode on Friday, but it's a really weird phenomenon. Uh Unless you've experienced it, there's really no way of explaining it. That's all I have to say about that. Both Mary and Anna's untimely passing seem to really match up with the story. So I think that this is a very well documented case of paranormal activity, even though that's really hard to do because even if you do find something, people are going to find a way to argue it with skepticism or like debunk it. So whether Mary began with a single night's tragedy or with many small deaths folded together, the result is still the same. So as Halloween approaches, the story of Resurrection Mary resurfaces, captivating those who seek a glimpse into the unknown. Hi, nice to meet you. I am those people. So if you ever find yourself just driving down Archer Avenue on a moonlit night, you might just encounter Chicago's most famous ghost, still searching for a ride home. And that, my friends, is the story of Resurrection Mary. I hope you enjoyed this story. And if you did and you think someone else needs to hear it, share this episode with them. Let them know. Be like, hey, this is on the paranormal bucket list. All right, we're going. You have a really skeptical uncle or aunt in your family, bring it up at Thanksgiving. Should make for a really interesting conversation. Ask your family if they've ever had a phantom hitchhiker story. I bet you that someone in your family does. I love the story of Resurrection Mary. It's really getting me in the spooky mood, for Halloween, spooky Halloween time. And like I said before, if you guys have any crazy Halloween stories, send them to me, please. First, send this episode to somebody that you think will like it, repost it, like it, share it, all of that. And then draft up a story for me. Let those fingers do some dancing on your keyboard and tell me a crazy story. That would just fit perfectly for an October Booze Clues. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning into yet another episode of me just, talking, just saying things. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And just be a good person, be a good human. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't leave a review. Don't be an asshole. Go follow the podcast where you follow things. And as always, Remember to trust your lizard brain. Until next time, goodbye.